It just dawned on me. What do you think the big difference is between Diddy and Carmelo Anthony? Because Diddy, I forgot honestly until today. I came across something. I was scrolling somewhere and I saw him. I was like, does anybody even care that Diddy's still in jail? Meanwhile, Carmelo Anthony has confessed to killing Austin Metcalf and he was allowed to be set free, at least out on bond and a reduced bond at that. So, what do you think the big difference is between a known murderer and Diddy? And we're going to talk more about that in a second because I got to show you this clip with Hillary Clinton. But first, speaking of Texas, speaking of more specifically Austin, Financial Dystopia says Austin's supply of housing is far exceeding its demand, and you get exactly this.
This is a 2-bedroom about 10 minutes from downtown where you and a friend can live here for $757 a person. No joke, this place is doing 6 weeks free. This unit is 1,197 square feet, as you can see by the giant living room and the giant patio. The primary bedroom has direct access to go outside, a big-ass closet, and a double vanity sink. The secondary bedroom's a little bit smaller, so you guys just flip a coin or something. But for $757, like, come on, bro. Pool was fire. All the amenity spaces were fire. The gym was tricked out. I definitely should have got more clips of that. But all in all, this place was super cute. So, link in bio.
But is this clip more about the Austin housing supply and apartment renting and apartment locating? Or is it more about this young lady and just leveraging a keyword of Austin to get more views, more impressions, more engagement, more clicks, ultimately more money? Donald J. Trump posted this. The sleepy Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of the United States, has allowed millions and millions of criminals, many of them murderers, drug dealers, and people released from prisons and mental institutions from all around the world to enter our country through its very dangerous and ill-conceived open border. Sorry, but it's my job to get these killers and thugs out of here. That's what I got elected to do. MAGA. And apparently there was some big protest going on again. I think Benny Johnson got involved with it with Byron Donalds, and they had a Cybertruck of some sort. Apparently here, hey, ICE Gov, this woman who was speaking in Portland, Maine today, was instructing people to interfere with and obstruct ICE.
If you see ICE disappearing people in the streets, will you get in the way? Yes! If you are charged with enforcing any part of the president's unlawful executive orders, will you resist? Yes! If your neighbor needs a place to hide, will you hide them? Yes!
The people then said they would. Isn't this a crime, they ask?
And right now, as the Maine legislature is trying to scapegoat transgender student athletes, bargaining long-held civil rights away in hopes that it will save Maine's federal funding, will you show up for them and say that our human rights aren't for sale?
And I think another question we should ask here is, what body type is this?
Yes! Thank you.
Who did pay for this trip?
Rapid Response 47 posted, Chris Van Hollen confirms taxpayers paid for him to fly to El Salvador and sip margaritas with a deported illegal immigrant MS-13 gang member. I've got more on that in just a second, but I do want to share something else with you guys, specifically as it relates to these protests. Tesla, Cybertrucks, Elon Musk, DOGE. So get this. Fortune Post shares the IRS interim commissioner was just ousted after Scott Bessent reportedly fussed to Trump that Elon Musk installed the leader behind his back. The acting commissioner of the IRS was fired Friday after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent reportedly complained to President Donald Trump that DOGE cost cutter in chief Elon Musk did not ask for approval to name Gary Shapley as the agency's leader. Deputy Secretary of the Treasury Michael Faulkner is expected to take Shapley's place. Shapley, a longtime IRS agent, was nominated Tuesday after former interim leader Melanie Krause resigned because the IRS was required to disclose taxpayer information to immigration offices or officials. The interim commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service was ousted Friday after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent reportedly complained to President Donald Trump that the world's richest man, Elon Musk, had instituted the new leader without his knowledge. 5 unnamed people told the New York Times. Although the tax collection agency reports to Bessent, the Treasury Secretary felt that Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, had gone behind his back to put Gary Shapley in power as acting head of the IRS. While DOGE pushed Shapley's nomination through the White House, Bessent was not consulted for his approval, the people said. Bessent then received Trump's consent to upend the nomination, and the IRS and the White House declined to provide comment, referring Fortune to the Treasury Department, and the Treasury Department did not immediately respond to Fortune's request for comment. The role of overseeing the IRS has been a carousel of stand-ins during the Trump administration, and Deputy Secretary of the Treasury Michael Faulkner is expected to be the next to take the reins again on an interim basis. Faulkner would be the fifth acting head to take over the agency until the president's nominee for the permanent role, former Congressman Billy Long, takes over, which is contingent on Senate approval. Shapley, the tenured IRS agent who was appointed to run the Revenue Service on Tuesday, was lionized by conservatives after providing whistleblower testimony to Congress that the Justice Department slow-walked the Hunter Biden investigation. Shapley was named to take charge of the agency Tuesday after the previous acting head, Melanie Krause, resigned, and Krause stepped down last week after the Treasury Department and the Department of Homeland Security didn't include her in an agreement that mandated the IRS provide taxpayer data to immigration officials. Quote, "It's no secret President Trump has put together a team of people who are incredibly passionate about the issues impacting our country," end quote. And this is from a White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, in what she told the New York Times. Disagreements are a normal part of any healthy policy process, and ultimately everyone knows they serve at the pleasure of President Trump. This is just the latest report of discord between Musk and other Trump officials. And last month, Musk and Secretary of State Marco Rubio exchanged verbal jabs during a cabinet meeting after Musk's DOGE had effectively shut down the U.S. Agency for International Development, which was under Rubio's oversight. About 10 days ago, Musk also called senior trade advisor Peter Navarro a moron on social media, and Navarro later told NBC News that Elon and I are great. This story was originally featured on Fortune.com. And, this is actually, it's pretty wild and interesting how this is all playing out, especially, we talk about Marco Rubio here. And we also know that Jake Long is likely to try and take Rubio's seat, or at least seeks to fill Marco Rubio's old seat in a run for Senate in Florida. I did see one on X, and it said something like Biden hired 80,000 IRS agents to steal our money. Meanwhile, President Trump has Elon Musk, who's volunteering, just one man, to save our money. And yeah, of course, there's going to be stories coming out trying to, again, drive a wedge and pit Elon Musk against everybody else. But think about it. This comes from the New York Times. Like, what else do I need to say besides that? They can try and dress it up and pretend like it's actually coming from Fortune, but anybody who runs and tells that to New York Times, they should have their head examined.
And boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence. Because,
and like I said, we were going to talk more a little bit about Hillary Clinton here. Hillary thinks if you are promoting propaganda, you should be criminally charged. But the better question is, who decides what's propaganda and what's not? And I can assure you, those who have the most control over the airwaves are of liberal mind, choosing and deciding what is not propaganda, while at the same time promoting some of the craziest, most ridiculous, outlandish stories. Van Hollen is on every Sunday show fighting for an MS-13 wife beating illegal. And here he laments Abrego Garcia's trauma. Again, calls his deportation an abduction. Incredibly bizarre political theater. But please, continue on, Democrats, because no one's really buying this.
This was an officially cleared congressional trip, cleared
So
on a
taxpayer
bipartisan
dollars.
basis. Yes, like every other trip.
So what did Abrego Garcia tell you?
He told me about the trauma he had been experiencing, both in terms of the abduction and the fact that he was originally sent to CCOT, which is this notorious prison.
Yeah, we've seen the
He told me
images.
how much he missed his wife and his kids. He specifically mentioned his 5-year-old boy who has autism because that boy had been in the car with him when U.S. agents had stopped them and handcuffed him and then taken him away. So he described all that, and he told me that he had moved recently to a new prison facility. So those are some of the highlights.
Highlights, better yet, lowlights. Thomas Sowell quotes, "It's confirmed Van Hollen's El Salvador trip was financed by taxpayers." Not that we had any doubt, any question, really. Insane. Disgraced Maryland Democrat Senator Chris Van Hollen confirms taxpayers paid for him to fly to El Salvador and sip margaritas with a deported illegal alien MS-13 gang member. And Rapid Response 47 shares how Chris Hollen says he didn't ask the deported illegal immigrant MS-13 gang member if he was, in fact, an MS-13 gang member. Go figure. But did he really need to? I mean, he can just look at the tattoos on his hand, on his finger, on his knuckles, right?
President Trump says that some of Abrego Garcia's tattoos signify that he's a member of MS-13. In 2019, police alleged a confidential informant claimed that Abrego Garcia was an active MS-13 member. His wife and his attorney deny that, of course. Can you say with absolute certainty that he is not, nor has he ever been a member of the MS-13 gang? And did you ask him point blank?
Well, Dana, what Donald Trump is trying to do here is change the subject. The subject at hand is that he and his administration are defying a court order to give Abrego Garcia his due process rights. They are trying to litigate on social media what they should be doing in the courts. They need to put up or shut up in the courts. Let me tell you, and I decided to write this down so I could be absolutely accurate as to what Federal District Court Judge Zinnes said about these allegations by the Trump administration. Quote, "No evidence linking Abrego Garcia to MS-13 or any terrorist activity has been presented to the court." That's where to litigate this. It's been litigated in many other places. So I'm not going to get into the details because the whole purpose of our court system is for them to adjudicate these things, not for Donald Trump to go off on social media.
Yeah, you're right. They have not, there hasn't been a court hearing for them to put forward evidence in the first place, which is your whole point. But since you were the one person to have met with him, and since this is a thing, you say on social media, it's what we hear from Donald Trump and Republicans every day, all day long, you didn't ask him?
I didn't ask him that because I know what his answer is.
So now he's a mind reader? Good Lord. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if these Democrats actually gave two shits about us? Think about it. Pandemic, shortages, no baby formula on the shelves, nowhere to be found. Parents, mothers, panic stricken, and can't sleep at night, worried. Can you imagine if a Democrat would have just jumped on a plane and facilitated the procurement of baby formula from another country, as if they did with the same amount of urgency here to fly down to El Salvador to rescue an abducted non-MS-13 gang member who just so happens to have the same tattoos that other MS-13 gang members have. But I didn't ask because I already knew the answer to the question. Can you imagine?
What bothers me more than that is a U.S. Senator traveled to El Salvador on taxpayer dime to meet with an MS-13 gang member, public safety threat, terrorist. I mean, in the meantime, the day before he traveled, an illegal alien was arrested for murder, released to the streets rather than honoring an ICE detainer in his very own state. What concerns me is Van Hollen never went to the border the last 4 years on Joe Biden when he had a 600% increase in sex trafficking of women and children. You have a record number of no-inspected terrorists crossing that border. You had 250,000 Americans die overdose because of the open border. You got over 4,000 illegal aliens died making that journey, which is an historic record. What shocks me is he's remained silent on the travesty that happened on our southern border. Many people died. Thousands of people died. I've met with hundreds of angel moms and dads who buried their children that were murdered by an illegal alien. How many angel moms and dads has he met in the state of Maryland? That's what concerns me.
This should bother you. Eric Doherty says that Tom Homan nails it. A U.S. senator traveled to El Salvador on taxpayers' dime to meet with a MS-13 gang member. How many angel moms and dads has he met in the state of Maryland? Good question. Look here, folks. This may be the greatest tweet in X history. Cat Turd shares this post from our president, Commander-in-Chief, 47 DJT at Real Donald Trump says, "Happy Easter to all, including the radical left lunatics who are fighting and scheming so hard to bring murderers, drug lords, dangerous prisoners, the mentally insane and well-known MS-13 gang members and wife beaters back into our country. Happy Easter also to the weak and ineffective judges and law enforcement officials who are allowing this sinister attack on our nation to continue, an attack so violent that it will never be forgotten. Sleepy Joe Biden purposely allowed millions of criminals to enter our country totally unvetted and unchecked through an open borders policy that will go down in history as the single most calamitous act ever perpetrated upon America. He was by far our worst and most incompetent president, a man who had absolutely no idea what he was doing. But to him and to the person that ran and manipulated the auto pen, perhaps our real president, and to all of the people who cheated in the 2020 presidential election in order to get this highly destructive moron elected, I wish you, with great love, sincerity, and affection, a very happy Easter."